Welcome back to my YouTube channel, where forgotten change becomes legendary treasure and history waits quietly in pockets and drawers until it decides to roar. Today's story is one you won't believe until you've heard it through, the astounding tale of a 1994 D1-cent coin, originally dismissed as just another penny, that would go on to shock the entire world with a valuation of $134 million. It's not just a coin. It's a chapter in a hidden saga that stretches from the halls of government to the depths of private vaults and across decades of mystery and silence. It all began in the dusty back room of a thrift store in Pueblo, Colorado. Evelyn Rusk was sorting through a box of donated items that had been sitting untouched for years. Among the miscellaneous trinkets, buttons, broken watches, and a faded high school ring was a small envelope marked only with the word silo. Inside were 8 ordinary-looking pennies, all dated between 1988 and 1995. She tossed them into the jar they kept near the register for loose change, unaware that one of those coins would change her life and set off a global search for answers that still hasn't ended. That penny, the 1994 D, eventually made its way into the hands of a quiet, meticulous man named Theo Lamy. Theo was a collector, not of flashy sports cards or comic books, but of anomalies. His entire apartment in downtown Denver was filled with strange artifacts, coins with errors, currency with misprints, and stamps that bore the wrong monarch. When he visited the thrift store on a Saturday morning, he wasn't looking for anything in particular. But when he paid for an old map and received his change, something about one of the pennies caught his eye. The 1994 D penny looked off. It had an unnatural luster, like it had been polished with something far more sophisticated than metal cleaner. The sound it made when he flicked it onto his wooden desk was subtly different too, slightly higher, more resonant. Intrigued, he pulled out his tools. The first thing he noticed under magnification was the microtext along the ridge, barely visible even at 30x zoom, a string of characters that looked like a serial number, DLX 1492 Sigma. No US penny should have any micro-engraving of that kind. None. It wasn't a mint mark, and it wasn't an accident. This was intentional. Theo posted a macro photograph of the ridge to an obscure numismatic subreddit. Within 12 minutes, the post was deleted by a moderator, and his account was banned. 5 minutes later, he received a private message from an anonymous user named Dredger5. If you still have the coin, do not take it to a dealer. Do not list it online. You need to speak to someone. I will arrange a meeting. Normally, Theo would laugh something like this off. But something about the message felt serious. Within days, a man identifying himself only as Reese showed up at Theo's door. Dressed in a clean, black suit with no labels, Reese was calm, polite, and carried a small briefcase. He didn't offer money. He offered a story. The 1994 D penny Theo had found wasn't a mistake or a one-off error. It was part of an experimental minting program authorized under a defense appropriations bill signed into law without public debate. The goal? To test embedded nanomaterials in common circulation currency, covertly. The experiment, known internally as Project Ecofoil, involved embedding trace data in everyday coins to create a decentralized, low-cost method of data distribution and anti-counterfeiting surveillance. Only 50 Ecofoil pennies were ever minted. They were struck not just in Denver, but in a subterranean facility located beneath it, an annex to the main mint that didn't officially exist, constructed under the guise of infrastructure reinforcement. Each Ecofoil penny contained layers of advanced material designed to absorb, store, and transmit coded information via proximity scanning. In theory, you could walk past a terminal with the coin in your pocket, and it would upload encrypted signals without anyone noticing. But after a series of leaks and one major scandal involving a contractor who tried to sell the data to a foreign intelligence group, the program was shut down and its assets seized except for a handful of coins that mysteriously disappeared. Theo had one of them. Reese didn't attempt to take the coin. He simply said, if you choose to keep it, be aware that you're holding something that will make you a target. If you choose to sell it, do so privately, and only through a channel I will provide. But know this, it's not just valuable. It's volatile. 2 weeks later, Theo's apartment was broken into. Nothing was stolen, except his coin magnifier, oddly. Not the coin itself, not the cash in his drawers. Just that one tool. He moved to a safer location and contacted Rees again, who referred him to a reclusive Swiss appraiser operating under the alias Muller. Muller flew in under a diplomatic passport and spent 3 days analyzing the coin. What he discovered made even Rees look pale. The micro-engraving on the edge wasn't just decorative or serial coding. It was a mathematical sequence tied to a lattice of frequencies used in early NSA satellite communications. The alloy contained a synthetic isotope that had only been successfully created once during a failed physics experiment in 1993, an experiment that resulted in a lab shutdown and the reassignment of 6 government researchers to unrelated departments. The penny, in other words, wasn't just an experiment in data embedding. It was a key, literally. It could activate specific buried signals when combined with the correct frequency and location. Signals that potentially unlocked long-abandoned intelligence caches, servers, or encrypted time-locked databases. Suddenly, the value of the coin wasn't just numismatic. It was strategic. That's when the bidding started. Anonymous buyers began contacting Theo. One offered $22 million with proof of funds. Another upped it to $40 million. A third flew in a team of attorneys and presented an offer with multiple exit clauses, secret relocation, and identity protection. But it was the final offer that changed everything, a single bid from an unnamed Asian tech conglomerate for $134 million, in full, delivered in bearer bonds. No questions asked, Theo accepted. But not before making a move of his own. He had spent the final week before the sale replicating every surface detail of the coin, down to the atomic scale, using a university's nanoscience lab. He created 3 indistinguishable duplicates, 2 inert, 1 potentially functional, just in case. He sent one to a safe deposit box in Austria, another to a trusted contact in Iceland, and kept the third hidden in a wall panel in a cabin owned by his grandfather in northern Idaho. He vanished shortly after the sale. Some say he lives in Patagonia now, under a new name, married to a linguist he met on a train in Spain. Others believe he was taken by one of the groups who wanted the coin but lost the bid. But those closest to the story say he's still watching, still listening, and still very much aware of what he let go. As for the buyer, the company never publicly acknowledged the acquisition. But months after the transaction, several dormant satellites belonging to decommissioned intelligence agencies powered back online for exactly 72 seconds each, all at times coordinated with global atomic clock readings. Some believe the penny was used to trigger access to data vaults buried since the Cold War. Others think the coin was destroyed immediately after being read, its purpose fulfilled, but the real mystery is this: if 50 were minted and only one has surfaced, where are the other 49? Rumors persist. A man in Malta claimed to own one, but his story fell apart under scrutiny. A woman in Toronto said her uncle had been part of the original minting program, but no records confirmed his existence. A private auction in Singapore in 2019 featured a coin that bore similar markings, but was ultimately proven to be a forgery. Still, collectors search. Governments, too. The 1994 D penny is more than just copper and zinc. It's a relic of a buried program, a ghost of a time when technology and secrecy collided in the most unexpected places. So next time you see a penny, especially one from 1994, take a second look. You never know what stories it carries, or who might be watching when you pick it up. Next, 1996 D1 cent USA coin, where hidden treasures become headline news and the smallest coins tell the biggest stories. Today, we're diving deep into a tale of unexpected riches, unbelievable history, and the kind of twist that only a seemingly ordinary coin could provide. Imagine finding a 1996 D1 cent piece, something so easily overlooked, so common in everyday life, only to discover that it is worth an earth-shattering $73 million. Buckle up, because the journey of this incredible coin will take us across decades, secrets, scandals, and the unlikeliest windfall in the world of rare currency. Let's begin the incredible story of how one copper-colored disc changed lives and stunned the globe. In a small town just outside Boulder, Colorado, there lived a retired aerospace engineer named Theodore Ted Markham. A meticulous man in his 70s, Ted had long since settled into a quiet life of gardening, crossword puzzles, and caring for his late wife's parakeets. Every Tuesday, he would stop by a local flea market to browse through old magazines, vinyl records, and antique kitchenware. He never spent more than $10 on any visit, but it was his way of staying connected to the past. One crisp autumn morning in October 2022, Ted made a spontaneous turn toward a booth he had never paid attention to before, one dedicated solely to vintage coins and obsolete currencies. The booth's owner, a mysterious man named Lennox, had an uncanny eye for coin detail and a cryptic way of talking. He wore gloves even on warm days and spoke in fragments, often interrupting himself mid-sentence. As Ted perused the various coins on the velvet-lined table, his eyes landed on a small tray marked pennies, 5 for $1. He shuffled through them, amused at the randomness. Wheat pennies, Lincoln Memorial backs, some with scratches, others with odd discolorations. Then, his fingers brushed against a 1996 D1 cent that felt heavier. Slightly denser, with an unusual luster that didn't match its age or supposed composition. He added it to his selection, paid the $1, and went on his way. At home, Ted placed the coins in a small wooden box on his bookshelf and didn't give them much thought for several weeks. It wasn't until December, when a particularly snowy evening left him with little to do, that he decided to examine the coins more closely with a magnifying lens his wife had once used for needlework. The 1996 OD stood out immediately. The texture was smoother, the edge more precisely cut. Most curiously, the color seemed almost imperceptibly redder than the others. Intrigued, Ted searched online for characteristics of rare pennies, falling down a digital rabbit hole of numismatics. He discovered that certain mint errors could make coins valuable, but nothing matched the visual features he observed. Then, in a quiet corner of a collector's forum, he stumbled upon a decade-old thread titled, "The Phantom Penny is Myth or Misprint?" It referenced an alleged prototype of the 1996 D1 cent coin that was never meant to be circulated, made using a copper zinc alloy mixed with traces of iridium, a metal so rare it is often more expensive than gold. According to the Post, a high-ranking Denver mint metallurgist named Alton Kressley had claimed in his retirement memoir that a batch of experimental cents had been minted late at night in March 1996 as part of a materials test for long-term durability in extreme environments. These coins were never approved, never documented officially, and supposedly destroyed, all except for one, which had been accidentally placed in circulation as a final rebellious act before Kressley's retirement. Ted's curiosity became obsession. He contacted the American Numismatic Research Society, but no one returned his emails. He wrote letters to Denver Mint historians, only to receive vague form replies. Finally, he reached out to a small private coin verification firm in Wyoming run by a reclusive genius named Eliza Hartnell. She agreed to examine the coin for a nominal fee, mostly out of boredom during the long winter. Ted mailed it carefully, wrapped in layers of foam and sealed inside a titanium ring box. A week later, he received a phone call that would change his life. Eliza's voice trembled with excitement as she confirmed what he had suspected. The coin wasn't just rare, it was one of a kind. The metal composition included 0.003% iridium, a signature no coin was ever supposed to have. The weight was 3.14 grams, slightly above the standard 2.5 grams. Under spectrographic analysis, the coin showed signs of cold forging under high-pressure conditions that were consistent with a now-defunct experimental press that had briefly been used in 1996 before being dismantled due to maintenance issues. But the most shocking revelation came when Eliza used ultraviolet light to examine the surface. Barely visible under the right wavelength, the initials AC were etched in the coin's interior ring, proof that Kressley had marked it personally. The coin had survived 26 years in circulation or storage without degradation. Eliza offered to buy it for $30,000 on the spot. Ted declined, his instincts telling him that its true value far exceeded that. Eliza, now deeply invested in the mystery, leveraged her network of global collectors and underground auctions. Word leaked to the numismatic elite that the lost prototype had surfaced. Offers came in. One from a Swiss billionaire known for collecting rare US mint errors. Another from an anonymous bidder in Hong Kong who sent a cryptic message, "Name your price." But Ted didn't want to sell, not yet. He wanted the world to know the story first. He approached a Denver journalist, Samantha Krieger, who specialized in obscure history. Intrigued by the authenticity and backstory, she ran a feature in the Colorado Record titled, "The Penny That Wasn't Supposed to Exist." The article exploded online. Within days, coin forums lit up, YouTube videos speculated wildly, and conspiracy theories swirled. Had Cressley intentionally released the coin? Was it part of a larger batch that had vanished? Did the US Mint cover up its own experimentation with alternative metals for coinage? The pressure mounted when the US Treasury issued a rare public statement denying knowledge of any such coin ever being produced. However, leaked internal documents obtained by an anonymous whistleblower told a different story. One memo from 1995 showed a request for high-density, long-life coin materials, citing field simulation parameters relevant to lunar and Martian environments. While the connection was never officially confirmed, theories emerged that the coin may have been part of early plans for durable currency on future space missions. Auction houses began circling TED like sharks sensing blood. Christie's and Sotheby's made discreet inquiries, both hinting that values in excess of $10 million were conservative. Still, TED held out, believing the coin deserved more than a rushed sale to the highest bidder. Then came the shocker, a $73 million offer from a private foundation called the Global Artifact Preservation Society, an elite organization dedicated to preserving one-of-a-kind historical items that reveal hidden layers of human achievement. The offer came with the condition that the coin never be displayed publicly and that the location of its storage remain secret. TED agonized for weeks. In the meantime, his story became the subject of a Netflix docuseries pitch, and his small Colorado home turned into a hotspot for reporters and curious treasure hunters. Eventually, the intrusion became too much. The parakeets grew anxious. TED, always a private man, decided that the piece of his late years was worth more than fame. He accepted the $73 million offer. The wire transfer was processed through 5 international banks. The coin was delivered in person, under heavy security, to a location believed to be in the Austrian Alps. The story faded from the headlines within months. Speculation remained, but the facts were undeniable: one man, one penny, and a chain of events that defied every expectation. Years later, numismatists still speak of the coin in hushed tones, referring to it only as the Cressley cent. Scholars write papers on the implications of the alloy, and conspiracy theorists claim it was proof of secret lunar currency trials. Meanwhile, Ted Markham used the money to endow scholarships in his late wife's name, build a state-of-the-art bird sanctuary, and fund research grants for materials science students. The 1996 D1 cent coin, once an unnoticed sliver of copper in a flea market tray, had become a legend. It wasn't about luck, nor was it about greed. It was about attention to detail, curiosity, and the refusal to dismiss something simply because it looked ordinary. For Ted, it was never just about the money. It was about the story, the history, and the mystery embedded in that tiny, round, metal piece of forgotten time, and for the rest of the world, it was a reminder that the most incredible treasures often hide in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to find them. Would you believe this all began with $1 spent at a flea market? There you have it, the incredible story of how a 1996 D penny became one of the most valuable coins in human history. And who knows? The next time you see a penny on the ground, maybe, just maybe, it's not so worthless after all. Stay curious, stay searching, and as always, thanks for joining us on this unbelievable journey. We'll see you next time with another tale from the shadows of history, where the smallest things carry the biggest secrets.